Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we have a double treat. We'd like to announce the first and the last appearance of Montgomery Clift, an interview show on television. Now, this was the introduction that we had written. For the next hour, you're in for a special treat. A close-up of a famous motion picture actor described by the Hollywood press as the male Garbo, a star admired by millions who abhors publicity, shuns his public and yet has a personal magnetism that keeps his fans loyal. Currently starring in one of the year's most dramatic motion picture successes, Freud, Montgomery Clift isn't the enigma, isn't the cold, elusive, inhibited person Hollywood would make you believe. He's a warm and friendly and down-to-earth guy you get to like better the better you know him. Tonight we're going to let you know him better, to erase a phony image and paint an accurate and living portrait of a man who also happens to be a star. Now, if you'll pardon us for a minute or so, we'll be back with our guest, Mr. Montgomery Clift.
Gardner, January 13, Kutsu.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Monty, this is wonderful, this orange juice, and I think we'll let the folks know that it's not spiked.
No, that's
because,
funny.
Somebody did a show once, and I think Gleason was on it, and they kept drinking and drinking. By the time they end up, brother, were they really stoned, you know? So we don't want to give that impression here, but this does something. Look what it does to the timbre, if you'll pardon the expression, of my voice.
You sound marvelous, Hy.
Why do you...
Wait a minute, I must tell you something, which is a joke which I heard about W.C. Fields. And he used to be, when he would drink like 2 quarts of gin a day, which I must say, in a vague way, one must admire somebody being able to do that. But he would have this glass of orange juice, well spiked, and a thermos he'd have. And one day, they decided to play a trick on him. They poured out the whole contents of the thermos and poured in all orange juice. And when he came and he took a sip, he made a terrible face and he said, "Who put orange juice in my orange juice?"
That's beautiful.
I think it's funny.
Do you generally drink this orange juice, sip it when you're making a picture? Do you sip it on the set?
Yes. Well, actually, somehow when you're working, and you're usually working under nervous tension, your mouth gets dry. A lemon is too much, and it crackles your lips and teeth and so on. And but somehow it salivates you. You know, you have saliva, and it can seem more real. I have a thermos of that on the set all the time.
Who uses lemon?
Marlon Brando.
Brando does?
Yes, I was on the set once, and he did, and I don't know, his mouth didn't pucker up, so, but he has the same trouble of us bottom neurotics.
I was going to ask you about Marlon Brando. In a recent issue of Variety, he broke the front page with this story: Brando pulls no punches on Hollywood, executives and press, and he plans to sue a national magazine. And I don't know whether you read it, but he made quite a few comments about not only the industry, but a few people in it and segments of the press and, if you'll pardon the expression, columnists.
Mm.
I wonder whether we got a chance to read it. Did you?
No, I read the very first part. I didn't read this whole section.
What did you think of it?
Well, he has a marvelously good point, I think, what he's trying to say. As he says, they went to Tahiti or wherever it was, and nobody bothered to look at the precipitation of rain. So they were going to go in the worst time of the year for rain. They eventually had to come back, as you know, to California. Mm-hmm. And he's absolutely right. I found it out recently most flagrantly in the movie Freud, which is running now. That the executives try to sort of hide their tracks by blaming it on the poor fellow who has to act it. A set isn't built in time, they blame the actor. The script is not ready, you get a white version, a blue version, a pink version, and a yellow version. And that night, you get the final version, and that's what you have to study, because you can't memorize the first version. So if the actor doesn't know the lines that morning, he's to blame. Even if he stays up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and has to get up at 5:30. Marlon has a very good point. I haven't finished the article, so I don't know what else he says.
Well, he says some other things. He said, for example, and I'm quoting him now, there are others. He was talking about members of the press, and he said, such as the columnists, who not only make a living by scavenging on the misfortunes of people, their embarrassments and foibles, but they invent it. They distort it consciously, deliberately, knowing that it will be lucrative, and it's not right by my way of thinking. And then he goes on to say that he thinks that as long as there's a market for the scandal item, there'll be people to hawk it. And as long as there are actors who want to be exploited, it'll always be the same. What is your reaction to those comments?
Well, can I go into a big realm like discussing, quote unquote, the press?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now see, it's not embarrassing, but you see, you're an exception, if I may say so. Because most columnists thrive on hate. They would rather print an article that somebody's running off with somebody's wife than they would that somebody's terribly happy. And I suppose there's a psychological reason for that. People in beauty parlors and so on probably read that much more swiftly and easily than they do that so-and-so is happy. But I have a big thing about the press, from my point of view. And that is that the majority of people, and I'm referring not only to America, but to Europe, most of the things, you spend, because I figure, if you are being interviewed, give that person your whole time. Don't have a press agent from the picture, nobody around. Give him all your time. He deserves it if he's intelligent. Well, the majority of them, and when I say majority, I literally mean you fall out of the 99% bracket. They could have stayed at home and typewritten it. They could stay at home. Just think up things. That's how truthful and honest they are. I refer to the fourth estate now as the ninth estate. I don't know what to refer to it as, because they don't care about the truth. The truth no longer interests them.
I got to interrupt. I agree with you in part, but I think your percentage is a little unfair. 99%, no.
All right, I'll say 89.
I'll settle.
All right, so we got a deal?
Yeah.
Good, the show's over then.
Not yet.
But it's when you do really give of yourself, it's as though it's not even like winding up on the cutting room floor. They fabricate, and when they ask you questions, they try and fit them into an angle. That's death. They fit this into an angle. They fit this into an angle. But they don't come openly, like you asked me a few questions the other day. And, but you asked wanting to know the answer. They don't want to hear the answer. They could write down the answer in their own bedroom.
You've always been known as a guy who tries to avoid the press, that you will not talk to them, that you're elusive, you're the
Well, it's not true.
garbo and so forth. And I have always found, when we have something we want to check, that either if Marilyn calls or if I call, we always get an honest answer.
Where's Marilyn?
And, oh, she's around, don't worry.
Huh?
I wouldn't dare be speaking if she wasn't. But the thing that I wonder about, insofar as you are concerned, is how many of these people are afraid to call you and who think they're going to be wasting their time if they try to get in touch with you, that you are elusive. Are you elusive, do you think?
I'm not elusive. The only time when I don't like to give interviews is when I'm shooting. Because I'm not the kind of character, considering the kind of roles I play. You understand what I mean? Like, let's say, Freud, or The Young Lions, or Judgment at Nuremberg, or From Here to Eternity. I can't suddenly throw off the mask and have lunch with somebody. It would take me another 3/4 of an hour to get back to the scene that was cut because of lunch. And now some people admit I'm quite verbose and very gregarious, and I love to talk, but at such times I would not be able to give them my full attention. That's why I don't. So, since most of the interviews come from Hollywood when you're shooting a movie there, they figure he's hard to reach. I'm very hard to reach when I'm shooting a picture. When I'm not shooting a picture, I'm not hard to reach at all.
Well, I don't want to talk to anybody if